Alright guys, welcome to another episode of Rad Race Parts. This week we're going to go over the Sniper EFI. Now, the title, Rad Race Parts, not necessarily a race part in most people's eyes, but I actually think this is one of the most highly underrated pieces of equipment, especially if you're doing a budget build. So obviously, if you know anything about the Sniper EFI, it's basically a fuel injected carburetor. Right. The thing that's great about these is they use the exact same technology software that the that the Holley EFI, the Dominator setup uses. So you can actually take a laptop and tune these just like you would use with the Dominator style setup. Now, I think when most people think about a fuel injected carburetor, they think about it in the way of using this to replace a carburetor. So you got an old 68 Camaro, you got an old Nova, you know, an F100 truck, anything that came carbureted and you're tired of fooling with, you know, it not wanting to run when it's cold out, or it kind of spits and sputters or cuts off at red lights or stop signs. You know, that's kind of the first thing I think that people think about when they think about these kind of setups. They think about replacing a carburetor. But these things right here could work really well for a race car setup. Now, bear with me. So they make several different versions of this thing, all the way up to 1,250 horsepower, 1,350 horsepower version, boosted, I believe. I'll have to look, but it's in that area. It's like over 1,200, let's just say over 1,000 horsepower boosted. Maybe it's 1,300 horsepower naturally aspirated. So these will work just like a blow-through carburetor will. You can push boost on the top, whether it's a turbo setup, pro charger, vortex, whatever. Doesn't matter what the setup is, you can push boost on top of it, and it's gonna work just like a blow-through carburetor would. And it has has benefits because there's actually a cooling effect of that fuel discharge running through those runners. It's actually gonna kind of cool the charge a little bit versus like a direct port fuel injection setup. So let's bust this thing out, take a look at it. Oh, before I start, one of the things I think I want to do with these little series, these little episodes, is be a little more transparent. You know, I think a lot of people think that everybody sends me stuff for free, and it's not really the case. I mean, sometimes it is, but not always. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'll start every episode off basically telling you, you know, whether I paid for it, whether they gave it to me, or they're paying me to, which probably won't happen, but more likely it'll be either I bought it or they gave it to me. Now, that being said, I definitely won't do these on parts that aren't rad, or that I don't like, or that are cool, or they're good parts. So even the ones that are given to me, I only accept things that I think are rad or cool, or, you know, that I need to bring you guys. So this one I actually paid for myself. The idea behind this is it's going to go on the C10. It's going on Caliente. Initially, I'm just going to put it on there right now just to kind of fix some of the issues you have with carburetors. I want to be able to put my wife in that truck. She can crank it up and drive it, no issues. But when I bought it, I actually made sure I upgraded a little bit and got the version that is boost capable, because, yeah. All right, let's see here. So at first glance, it looks just like a carburetor, and that's by design. So this thing would fit on any carburetor setup, carbureted intake. It would replace your carburetor very easily. The current breather or bonnet that you're using on your carburetor will fit right on this thing. It'll bolt up. The throttle cable and everything will hook up just like a carburetor. So if you look on the side of this thing, I mean, it's very, very similar. And then even the bottom side of it, very much carburetor-esque, right? Well, that's pretty much where the similarities end, because this thing, all in this housing right here, it has all the electronics, your map sensor, your fuel injectors. Some units have 4 fuel injectors. I think they're like 100 pound per hour injectors. Some units have 8 injectors in them, depending on the power that these things are capable of making. And if you look inside, what's cool is they actually inject the fuel all the way around each barrel, I guess you would say, since it's a 4 barrel. So instead of having one stream, it kind of injects that fuel in, from every side. Fuel pressure regulator, yeah, everything you need. Throttle position sensor, all the stuff that is technically used in fuel injection setups is all built into this housing. They don't all offer that. I think the higher horsepower versions, they have an external fuel pressure regulator. Not that big of a deal. I think everything else is still housed internally. Got your standard vacuum ports on the back. And yeah, so, I mean, other than it looking kind of odd as a carburetor, it also has all these cables that come off of it. Now everything is just plug and play on this bad boy. And that's the beauty of this system too, is that it is a plug and play setup for the most part. So what you'll have to do is the carburetor just bolts on. You'll have to plug in all the harnesses. I think you got to pick up like a power wire, a ground wire, maybe a tach sensor. I think that's about it though. Now they offer kits that are 100% complete. Comes with fuel pump installation. This particular kit, actually I think all of them come with a wideband O2. So it's got a wideband oxygen sensor. It'll self-tune. You basically just hook it up. You punch in a couple parameters about your vehicle. You crank it up and then it's gonna self-learn. It's gonna self-tune itself. Is that a double negative? It's gonna keep tuning until it's got it exactly where it should be. And the way that it does that is with a wideband oxygen sensor. Comes with a heads-up display that goes inside the cab of the car or truck. This display will actually monitor what's going on. It's going to tell you what's, air temps, duty cycle, I think. I mean, it's going to tell you all the stuff that you need to know. You can also do some moderate tuning with this. And then, like I said, you can always plug this thing into a laptop and have full control. I will say all of this stuff I'm telling you is not from experience, because obviously I haven't hooked it up yet, but I've done a lot of research on it. I've seen it being used, and I actually have some buddies that have this almost exact unit. So I know good enough. I just don't know exactly. Hope that works for you. So like I said, all the harnesses are included, even the relays. There's your water temp gauge. So like on this display, it's going to tell you water temp. It's going to tell you air fuel ratio off of the wideband oxygen sensor. There's your USB hookup to plug this thing into a laptop. It's got really everything you need, even down to the parts you need to put the oxygen sensor in. They say it's a no weld setup. You can basically just drill a hole, clamp this to your exhaust pipe, screw it in, you're ready to go. I won't do that. I'll go the extra mile and put a bung in there and get welded and all that stuff. But if you didn't want to do that, you wouldn't have to. All right, so let's talk about some of the race features that this thing has, which is what I think makes it super or highly underestimated. Think about it like this. This particular unit right here is like $1,200, I think. And if I was gonna build a traditional fuel injection setup, I'd need to buy injectors. I'd have to have an ECU, standalone ECU. I'd have to have a throttle body. I'd have to have a fuel pressure regulator. And all that stuff together would be thousands, right? You gotta think a throttle body is a couple $100. Injectors are at the very least a couple $100. Standalone EFI setup is gonna be like $2,000. And obviously you go up from there. Like, the standalone ECU setups go as much as you want to spend. Injectors go up to, $1,000, more than that. So depending on what you're doing, you're getting all of those things bottled up into one unit. right? And then fuel injection, like a fuel injected, like an EFI setup, the intake itself is going to be very expensive, where the intake for this is just a standard carbureted intake of your choice. So when it comes to what you're getting for the money, this is by far your best value when I think of EFI setups. So let's talk about some of the race functions that this thing has. You can run nitrous with this, and it will basically, you can run a plate setup. It could be a dry setup, so no fuel. And then the fuel can be put in with the sniper itself. So it knows when you hit the nitrous, it triggers this thing, then it dumps extra fuel in to match whatever nitrous setup you're doing. The thing that's super nice about that is that you can basically tune your nitrous combination through the carburetor and not through jetting. You put a standard nitrous jet in there, whatever power range you want to make, say it's 150 horsepower shot of nitrous. As long as your bottle pressures stay pretty consistent, you can tune the rest of it with this thing. You make a pass, you data log it, you see what your EGRs were. EGRs? No, you see what your AFRs were going down the track. If it was a little rich, you lean it out. If it was a little lean, you richen it up. You can kind of fine tune that combination through the computer itself and not necessarily through jetting or pressure. The other thing that the Sniper EFI will do that is super rad is boost. Now, I'm a boost lover. It's the way to go in my opinion. And you can basically take just a blow-through bonnet that's made for a blow-through carburetor, build you a simple turbo setup, get a supercharger, a Vortec or Paxton setup, and you can just blow air through this thing, and this will compensate for the amount of fuel you need based on those boost pressures. And you can ramp boost in with a boost controller. So it has a boost controller set up in this system. All you need is a couple external pieces, like a boost control solenoid, a little bit of wiring, and then your ECU could actually control the boost ramping and so forth. Now, not 100% sure you can do that on all of them, but I'm pretty sure all the ones that accept boost also have that feature. With this setup, you can also control timing functions. So depending on what kind of timing setup you have, you can actually control some timing functions. For instance, on the nitrous setup, I think you can do timing retards. So once the nitrous kicks in, this thing starts dumping fuel. You can also pull timing out based on the amount of nitrous that you're running. I think it'll do the same thing for boost as well. Me personally, I'll probably run a separate timing module, I think. I'll have to wait and see when I get into this to see what it offers, but I'll probably go with like an MSD boost referencing module. Yeah, anyway, I'll probably go with MSD separate that references boost, and I can do my timing there. I don't know, I'll have to wait and see, because obviously I don't need to spend money on something that I don't need. If this will do it, I'll just use this. One of my favorite things about this setup too is that it is period correct. So if you have one of those vehicles that you want the advantages of fuel injection, but you don't want it to look like it's not period correct, so you have an older, 60s, 70s vehicle, and you really want it to look like it's carbureted still, but you want the advantage of all the features that come with EFI, this is what you need. So anyway, there you go. This week's rad race parts. It is the Sniper EFI. I'll drop you some links in the description of all the different styles of these. So you got from a base model that only does naturally aspirated to like a mid version that does boost and can handle up to like 650 horsepower, all the way up to the one I was talking about that will do 1,300 horsepower. And if I had to bet, I would bet that they probably come out with some more of these that even go higher than that. So, like a Dominator style version. I think they've already got a Dominator style version, but I don't know that the horsepower rating is that high yet. I would guess, I would almost bet though that it's coming. So, props to you, Holley. I dig it. I hadn't even used it yet, and I love it. Stay tuned as I start to work on Caliente. We get this thing put on. Yeah, start making some power. Anyway, as always, thank you for joining me. I'll see you guys some more this week. Go do work, son.